Cascade Mountains. This is S4. Sit back, relax, and keep your eyes to the skies.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to S4, where we talk about the serious issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live from the S4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. And yes, it's not your normal show, because this is the beginning of the 24-hour marathon. And we're starting right off the top with Preston Dennett. Hey, how you doing tonight, Preston?
Doing well. Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, awesome for 10 o'clock at night when we're not discussing all the time. So we're going to kick right in. And you're lucky because you're the first one. You get to go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're just starting. So it's going to be awesome, though. So real quick, I know you've written 27 books. How long you been in the UFO field?
Well, 35 years and, almost 40 at this point.
There you go.
Long time.
Yep, and you've probably seen a lot and helped a lot of people.
Hey, I hope so. Yeah, I was thinking this the other day. I've done this most of my life, so.
Good deal. Good deal. So, real quick, we also have Barry Gaunt. He's one of our regulars on the show. He's going to try to make it the entire 24 hours. Are you still with MUFON, Preston?
I am. Yeah, I just renewed my membership. I know they've been having some problems lately with their leadership. But all UFO groups do. I mean, starting since AFRO. They were infiltrated by the CIA and NICAP as well. All these citizen groups, they have their trouble, but hey, you gotta support them.
Oh, absolutely. So Barry is the Kentucky MUFON director.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. But he handles a lot more than just a lot more people go to him outside of MUFON for all paranormal help, not just UFO reports and whatnot. So Barry's a busy guy. That's why he's on the road now. He had an investigation today.
Yeah, I'm coming back from a investigation right this moment. Glad to be on with you, Preston. Yeah, likewise.
Absolutely. So first off, what got you into the paranormal, and what happened that made you explore the paranormal?
I grew up pretty skeptical of this. Well, I was very skeptical. I was ready to tell you were full of it. You thought you'd seen a ghost, believed in life after death, have clairvoyance or precognition or seen a UFO. I just did not believe. It wasn't until 1986, heard a report in the news about the UFO sighting for Alaska. And I thought, wow, this is a pilot. First investigation on the line about seeing a UFO.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother had seen one, or so he said. I didn't believe him at the time. But I asked him about it. He said, yeah, I totally saw one. Don't believe me, ask my friends. They were there. I'm like, all right, let me talk to them. Phil and Greg. And I talked to them. actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what got me started to UFOs, at least. But found out that all this stuff is related. A lot of people who see UFOs were having, ghost experiences, near-death experiences, all kinds of stuff. So it sort of snowballed from there.
That, and that's why when we talk paranormal, we agree. UFOs are paranormal. Yeah, you got so many in the UFO field that want to argue that ufology is ufology, paranormal, and most people when you mention paranormal, they think hauntings automatically. But to us, and that's why S4 takes it in the approach that when we're talking a paranormal radio show, we talk Bigfoot, cryptids, UFOs, alien abduction, hauntings, entities, the whole gamut. So completely agree with you.
Just tell them, okay guys, I just need 1 minute here to make sure. Preston, can you talk for me?
Yeah, I totally agree that UFOs and the paranormal are related. Absolutely.
Okay. Barry, you got... I think you're there automatically because I think that's your car I can hear.
Yeah.
I'm here and I'm on board with UFOs, paranormal. Everything is all related in a very, very big way.
And I can't express how many times we've had a case where you'll have the client that calls and they're describing a haunting experience, but in all reality the signs that they tell you are actually abduction related, and you're the one that tells them wow, you're fitting the abduction pattern and not the haunting side. So it is interesting. And how many times have you heard? So you see with the Bigfoot side, you see the flip side. You see sometimes you've heard the reports where the UFO lands in the woods, Bigfoot steps out, picks up soil samples, whatnot, gets back in the craft. I've heard the flip side of that, where people will see a UFO and they'll see a Bigfoot running away from the UFO. Almost like, and I've said that on the show before, that if aliens are abducting humans, why wouldn't they be abducting a Bigfoot as well? It just makes you wonder.
The ones that are running the way are the ones that are... The ones that are running the way are the ones that escaped from the first...
Right? I would agree.
Yeah, I remember my first Bigfoot UFO case. I'm like, oh no, please no. I don't want to investigate Bigfoot, but got kind of dragged into it because you got to be objective. If you want to solve any mysteries, you can't just throw away evidence.
No, absolutely not. And with the evidence, you have to look at the lore behind it. I mean, look how many Native American, for example, legends, and it's documented in their oral writings about Bigfoot and about the Star People. To me, that's evidence when it's actually documented into a culture.
Right. Oral tradition is nothing to sneeze at.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So how many UFO sightings or alien interactions have you personally had?
Oh, me personally? Well, quite a few, I have to say. Nothing growing up, nothing my whole life, really, that I can distinctly point to and say, well, that's E.T.
Mm-hmm.
Have had a few paranormal stuff. I remember once at age 9, the TV came on and there was a game show, Treasure Hunt it was called, and darned if I didn't know all the answers. I just had this weird precognition. I knew what was going to happen. And me and my sister were just rolling on the floor. We thought it was the funniest thing. But kind of just discounted it. And it wasn't until I started investigating UFOs, actually it wasn't long after, I started having sightings. Probably, 1992, 93, was around there, late July. was just going crazy over the fact that UFOs were real. It was a very big adjustment, and it had taken me a good four years, of really digging in. And I thought, okay, this is real. And I'm driving home to my condo in Canoga Park. That's here outside LA, Southern California. And it's a pretty densely populated area. It's late at night, and this thought it was a bird. I really did. It's late at night. It's like 11, 12 o'clock. This bird swoops down, and it's obviously not a bird. It's a ball of light. And it's about the size of a golf ball, or bigger even, a little bit. It comes right up to my windshield and goes back and forth a few times, dips down, goes straight up. And, I don't know what the heck that was. I really don't. That was my first.
And that reminds me of a story we had here locally, where someone we know, actually, it was like a ball of light moving 10 feet off the ground through the woods, to where, and it was almost like it was following his kids, to where he actually pulled his gun out and shot at it, and it didn't affect it none. It left, but was it alien? Was it? We still don't know. Because there's so many anomalies, and that is going to be our next show, is the anomalies that are in the woods, specifically. But there's so many it almost seems like the more you research and the more you investigate, there's almost more questions that you have after you get done than the answers you've got.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely agree with that. Just layers and layers and layers to all of this. And finding out that UFOs are related to Bigfoot was a big pill to swallow.
Right.
As well as those. I once had a family call me from Illinois, and they're like, yeah, our doors are opening and closing, lights are going on and off, we hear footsteps. And I'm like, well, this sounds like a haunting. And I'm going through some of the experiences they had, and they said, well, we think you should know, too, there's this thing hovering over our house. And I'm like, what? Yeah, it's these lights. These lights, they're darting around, and they're hovering, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, well, they're circular. I'm like, oh, okay. So that was a case that still I don't know, because UFOs, these ETs can walk through people's houses, open and close doors.
Mm-hmm.
You will hear footsteps. They're invisible. I don't know. I still don't know what to tell this family. What exactly is happening to them?
And so you described the orb-shaped or the circular craft. Have you seen what other shaped craft have you encountered, either through your investigating or personally? Because I know there's a scar-shaped craft, there's a triangular craft, there's a boomerang-shaped craft. There's so many.
Hey,
what?
That is not a triangle craft.
What?
That is the Dorito craft.
Okay, fine.
They
Dorito
copywrote
craft.
that.
or the pyramid craft that goes straight up. Hell.
Yeah, I've had a number of sightings. I have to tell you, associating closely with people who are having lots of encounters seems to be the real trick here. And that's what worked for me. I was interviewing this one guy. He had a lot of sightings. And I ended up having a very amazing sighting of this triangular craft. I would describe it as triangular, very low, a couple of 1,000 feet. Had 3 kind of circles on it, one at the apex, 2 on either side. Definitely metallic, and I would say the size of 3 jets at least. It was huge.
Huh.
Very low.
So you want to jump in, Barry, or are you still driving?
He said 45 minutes. It's been 15, dude.
Okay, fine.
Barry, go faster!
I'm trying to think the other types of craft we've got. Cause
the cool thing about it is that what Preston's saying, is that, once you become an investigator and you start investigating, you have a lot more opportunities. And it's like they know you're looking at them, and they love to see you. That's why I have a hard time with a lot of people who are in the UFO field and said they have never seen a UFO. And the same thing with those cases. We've had several cases where you've got people that come in, and you're sitting in your house, and they start talking about TV, lights, everything else, shadow people, strange orbs, and then they tell you about the circular craft over their home, because paranormal activity, the veil seems to be lifted after they have a UFO sighting, a close UFO sighting, or else an abduction.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. Yeah,
And-
that's a weird pattern. It's as if, I don't know, it awakens something in people. The veil's lifted, it becomes thin, but it brings in a whole host of ghost encounters, shadow people, all kinds
Exactly.
of paranormal experiences.
So have you noticed?
And
Have you noticed a pattern with seasons?
As far as UFOs, summer,
Yeah.
the summer seems to pick up a little bit. And I wonder if it's because people are out late at night. But yeah, I have noticed that. And not so much with paranormal.
I kind of agree on that too. But we've noticed it a little bit different at certain times. Like certain months that they'll be here, certain months they won't be here, or they'll be here. I can tell you, like in August, and we picked up a few sightings in August, and it's kind of like going, I knew it was going to happen beforehand, because through doing it historically, you kind of get an idea when they're going to come and go. Now, whether that's because of an opening or a wormhole that they're using, that they come to certain areas, and then they'll go to another area after that. So it gets very, very strange and very odd at that time, and then they may disappear for 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden the door opens up again, and you'll see them in. You'll see sightings pick up in New York, in that area, and then they'll be over in the West Coast. They may be in Florida, and the next thing you know, they're in the central part of the country in our area.
So one thing I want to bring up, because I've noticed a pattern with it as well, is at Christmas time, when all the Christmas lights are on, New Year's when everyone's got fireworks, and 4th of July when all the fireworks are going off. It does seem, and you have to rule out whether it's a UFO or whether it's a Chinese lantern, or if it's a drone or a mundane anomaly versus an actual UFO. But have you noticed any kind of pattern with that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 4th of July is actually the most common day to see a UFO, according to Mutual UFO Network and National UFO Reporting Center. That's when they receive the most reports.
But again, I would only account that for the fact that everyone's looking up.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And
That's exactly right. Everybody's looking up.
Yeah, but it's more than that. I think so, because people are seeing these objects watching the fireworks. It's weird.
Okay,
it's not a great day to see a UFO because everyone's going to say, they saw fireworks.
Right.
But the thing is, you would get more accounts than in Japan and China than anywhere else, because of the amount of fireworks they shoot off there every year. It's not 4th of July. It's all the freaking time.
Oh, really?
Every week, Japan has a fireworks celebration for something.
True.
This is true.
True.
And half the time, it's actually just tests.
It just seems certain times attract UFOs. So,
I wonder if it's not the fact that the fireworks are there. I wonder if it's the fact that they're here because the people are outside.
That's a good point.
Oh, it's a possibility.
That's a good point.
Sightings are escalating recently, and we're all outside these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was a question. That was a question I had for you too. Have you seen a spike since March?
Yeah. Well, personally, I haven't received a whole lot more cases, but some, and just generally looking at what's coming in, yeah, we are seeing a spike in cases. My question is this a social phenomena? Are people more aware of it? Or are sightings actually, physically escalating? And I'm going to say it's the latter. I think there are more of them, because that's the sort of the pattern we're seeing, generally speaking, since 1947, the modern age.
Right. Well, and 1947, the 1940s in general, when we actually started doing the nuclear testing and whatnot, really, I think about it from an off-world, from an extraterrestrial perspective. Oh, the walking monkeys now have a device that's going to destroy the planet, possibly going to interfere with the galaxy in general, or our planet, because you got radiation. I think, because we've actually got evidence since the beginning of time, with cave paintings, with archaeology they're finding today. Some of it's debunked, but
for the last 2 million years, not since the beginning of time, because
right. But so we know they've been here, but now we're actually seeing them in the skies, it seems, more often. Especially us sitting here at the studio looking outside.
Well, okay, but you got to also account for if someone in the U.S. in the 1600s said, I saw a craft floating in the sky.
They did have
which?
Oh, yeah, that too. That too.
You're allowed to say it now.
Cultural difference. Oh, hell no, I'll go burn them.
Well, no, I mean, you're allowed to say that you've seen a UFO. Back then, it wasn't acceptable.
Let me clarify. No, I won't burn the witch. I am a witch.
I know.
But yeah.
but you're allowed to say it now. You're allowed to say that you've seen a UFO. It is culturally acceptable.
Right.
It wasn't even until 20 years ago.
Back then, you'd be in the loony house.
20 years ago, you'd be in a loony house.
Yeah. True.
Friend.
Yeah, I know that people that's happened to literally sent off to mental institutions by their family.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely.
And what 100 years ago, a couple hundred, how many people were actually literate, could read and write? Who are they going to tell? UFOs, the idea of aliens is still pretty new. People thought of it more as religious or astronomical phenomena, not so much extraterrestrial.
Absolutely. Have you ever been abducted that you know of?
No. It kind of wouldn't surprise me in a weird way, because I am obsessed with this subject. It is in my family. My brother, my sister-in-laws, nieces and nephews. A lot of people have had sightings, some close up. So there's something there. But I can't point to any particular incident other maybe than that, orb sighting I told you about. Mm-hmm. Where I may have been abducted. But I don't know. There was this one lady I interviewed. She was telling me her really incredible experiences about being visited by gray-type ETs. She had hybrid babies. They were abducting her. Once she woke up, they were all around her bed. She jumps up. She kicks one in the neck. Falls down over, apparently dead. She's like, oh, my God. And once she wakes up, she's floating up. She's 100 feet over her house. There's a UFO above her. She's like, oh my God, put me back right now. They were so surprised that she woke up that they actually did. So I'm interviewing her about all this, right? And I recorded it, of course. I record all my interviews, and I'm transcribing it, and I'm, typing it all up. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if this is real. Did she truly kick an ET in the neck? This is crazy. I've heard of other cases like this, but this was a big case. And so I'm like, wow, what's going on? And this is a true story. Honest to God, I got this weird feeling. Mm-hmm. Go up onto the roof. Go onto the roof of your condo here. And I'm like, okay. And it got so strong, I couldn't resist it. And I just ran up onto the roof, and I'm like, what am I doing? You know, this is a 3-story condo. You're not allowed on the roof.
Right.
And I was up there, I don't know, 20 seconds. And this light appears. And it gives me a message. And, you know, I don't even know how to describe this other than this did happen, and it was weird. And it hasn't happened before or since, but it kind of said to me, I mean, it gave me a message. It's like, this is us. You know, you don't believe? And I'll call her Wendy. We're Wendy's ETs. This is us. Watch this. Don't believe. And it wasn't in so many words, but it was clear enough. Mm-hmm. And this thing starts darting around like nobody's business. I mean, back and forth. Like, look what we can do. You don't believe, huh? And I'm like, oh, okay. I believe. I'm sorry. Wow, thanks.
So you encountered a CE5.
Yeah, I mean, this darn thing came for me. No question. Because I was like, wondering. And I call her up. Yeah, I call her up. I'm like, oh my God, Wendy, you're not going to even believe this. This happened. You know, they came for me. They said, she's like, oh, I told you. I so told you. I'm like, well, I want to see him again. And she sets up the most amazing setting I've ever had. Seriously. I mean, I've had people try to, like, show me UFOs before, but this lady takes me out, and sure enough, this object shows up. And it was 50 feet away and as big as a house, and the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a CE5, and those are the more rare.
Mm-hmm.
But they seem to be more common.
Yeah, absolutely. I just put out a new book, my latest book. It just came out. It's called UFOs at the Drive-In.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So this details, I know it's weird, but this presents like 100 cases where people saw UFOs at a drive-in theater.
Huh.
And honestly, every single one of these cases is a CE5 because these objects were clearly drawn down to show themselves because of this drive-in. It's human-initiated encounter. It is. And
Right.
Right?
Not denied.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's because any time that someone who has had an experience or has had an abduction, I think that they actually come to see you, and it continues. And if someone else is there with them, they can also have that experience. And it's an all-mental experience. So you are definitely telepathically talking to you, telling you, hey, I'm over here to the left. I came here for you, you know. And I'm always surprised about how I see something in the middle of a town or whatever, and people around the town never report anything. So I wonder if it's just was there for me to look at. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, how terrifying would it be if you're sitting at the drive-in theater watching like Independence Day and a craft comes and sits like right over top of
That would be the wrong movie to come down and say, hey, we're here. Ah, no! Yeah.
Right? There's quite a few movies that I wouldn't want to see an alien craft above me after watching.
No. Come down when Paul's playing. There we go.
Right.
Yeah, there's one case where people were watching The Exorcist on the
God.
Right.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to have the answer for this because it's a hard one. And Barry, I want to include you on this one because what race do you think is doing this initiated contact?
Oh, I feel like it's all of them. Well,
Do you?
Because I get mostly grays when I talk to people. It's some variation of that, of what we would think of as gray ETs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, large heads, short jumpsuits. But praying mantis, human-looking.
Right,
I think
the mantids.
all types. Yeah.
But and that's why I'm asking, because the initiated contact, where they're actually saying, "Look, here we are. We have a beautiful craft and whatnot," versus the ones that are doing the abduction. What would be their reasoning when you've got the abductees that probably really don't want initiated contact because they're being taken against their will? I don't know. I'm trying to think how to phrase it, because an abductee is not going to want to see him.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah. Abductees don't want to see them, but every night they have that, they have a certain thing that they don't want to come to the window. They don't want to have that. Just like you was saying earlier, where you have this irresistible thing to go outside. I mean, it just torments you to no end. You're like going, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to go outside. And what's going to happen? The next thing you're going to be is you're going to be standing outside, looking up, and you're going to go, oh, great, here I am.
Absolutely.
Because they pull you there. They actually pull you there.
Mm-hmm.
Does someone have us on speaker?
I'm hearing an echo.
Yep.
Barry, I think it's got to be you because you're not the only one.
All right, well, here's what's going on. I'm at the house. I'm going to run in right now. I'll jump on Skype, get my headsets on, and we'll be all set to go. How about that?
All
All
right.
right, sounds good.
There you go.
All right. So I'll say bye for you for a minute. I just got home. I'll be right back on it, and you'll see me on Skype.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Okay, but
Just before you ask anything, Michael would like to know, Preston, if you've entered or if you have attended CITD in the last 3 years.
I'm sorry, what?
It's I think it's a festival or something like that.
Have you ever attended CITD in the last 3 years?
Oh, Contact in the Desert. Yeah, I was there last year.
Okay, there you go.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Thank you, Michael. Hey, you just said Contact in the Desert.
That's the big one. I love doing conferences. I don't do a whole lot of them. Try to do a couple each year.
We tried.
This year I did one right before the whole, pandemic went down.
Right.
So I was fortunate.
Yeah, that's so irritating, because we were supposed to take S4 to 3 different events and they all got scrapped.
yes.
We were supposed to go to the International Bigfoot Conference here in Washington. We were supposed to go to the Oregon
Ghost
Conference. And everything got scrapped.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to know, were you in the sand pit with them using night vision?
I did. Well, I'm not sure if I was in the sand pit, but I did use some night vision during that weekend. It was very cool. If you want to see a UFO, I mean, it's not hard. Just get a pair of night vision, and you will see them. Yeah.
Okay. So he thinks. He met you at the at the CITD. It was himself, Tiff, Giorgio, his wife Scott, a bunch of random people with him at the golf course.
Yeah, I do remember that.
So he's in the chat room.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, we were talking about the people, the ships coming in and people seeing them, and then the contactees and the abductees. Do you think maybe the ships coming in is kind of like a ploy, like when somebody's really nice to you and hands you candy, and then hey, step in the van type thing? They're going to put on this light show and be like, oh, hey, look at us, while they're abducting this guy over here.
Yeah. The ETs, to be fair, have not been fully forthcoming. We're often very tight-lipped.
Right.
They'll say things like, don't be afraid, we won't hurt you, which is usually true, but not always. They're very reluctant to reveal their origins or their plans. On the other hand, and when I first got involved in this field, I was like horrified. I'm like, wow, people are being abducted against their will. There are needles, there are anal probes. This is not good.
Right.
Right? So I kept researching because it was very interesting. And what I saw, I started to change my mind a little bit. I'm like, no, I don't think this is nefarious. I don't think it's evil. And I always ask this of people I interview. I'm like, do you think this is a terrible, terrible, evil thing that they're out to destroy and take over the world? And very few say that. Because what happens? I mean, what happens when people are taken on board is, they're physically examined. It can be pretty scary. It's obviously against your will if you're being kidnapped. There's really no excuse for that. You can't rationalize it. So that's a problem. And I still don't know quite how to reconcile that with what is actually happening to people.
Right.
But I mean, I would think that if they were here to just destroy and take over the world, that they would have done it a long time ago. Like, there has to be some other reason for them to be here than to take over.
I think that race isn't here yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's probably evil ETs out there, but what we're dealing with now, I've documented some 300 healing cases, physically healed people, everything. So this is clearly an agenda that they're trying to heal people. They're warning people about environmental destruction. That's very common. It's probably the most common message. Anyone is giving a message beyond, don't be afraid. It's some warning of nuclear proliferation, of world violence, of pollution.
So maybe then they're going with what happened on their planet, like at some period of time, and hey, you guys are going down the same path, don't do this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, precisely. They've said exactly that. In numerous fully independent cases. Most people don't read UFO books. UFO books don't sell that well, honestly. Not like science fiction or romance and people are reporting the same darn story. And that's one of them. Absolutely. So, I'm encouraged about all this because people are like taken to the engine room too. That's another very common thing. And it's kind of cool. Yeah, they show people. They actually will sit them in the control seat and let them fly the craft. My latest book, Onboard UFO Encounters, 15 cases. I think like 4 people had that experience.
So, have you ever met someone that was encouraged to fly the craft telepathically or with their mind?
Yeah. That's, I would say, turns up fairly consistently. That's exactly what one lady, Dolly, she said that you have to be very empathic. Not everyone can do it because actually you connect telepathically to these things, and it's sort of like becomes a part of you almost.
So Michael wants to know why do you think they haven't initiated global first contact? Do you think they've attempted maybe and they've been shut down by certain governments, or why don't they just come out and say, hey, we're here?
I think they went to the government first and said, this is what we want to do. This is what reportedly happened at Edwards Air Force Base in 1954 with President Eisenhower.
Right.
Right? It's a very famous case where he supposedly met with ETs, and they're like, yeah, we want to disclose. And they're like, no, we want your technology.
And that makes sense.
Which is, a natural governmental reaction. So the government didn't disclose, and the ETs started going to the people. And there's been a very concerted agenda, a publicity campaign ever since. And this is why we have the Phoenix Lights, or the Hudson Valley UFO wave, or Gulf Breeze, or the Belgian wave. This is why we have UFOs hovering over schoolyards. I wrote a book about that. Or drive-in movie theaters. It's the same darn thing.
Well, you go back to the 1952 White House flyover with, 9 craft that had a radar exchange, and we'll get to disclosure here in a little bit, but to me that was first disclosure, because that was 1952. Nobody could deny that.
Oh, I mean, you look at Brazil and you look at a few other countries, and they will fully state that UFOs are a part of their life, that they are there.
Yeah.
Mexico and Chile. And yeah, all countries are becoming more forthcoming. Finally, we are too. I mean, the Pentagon, what did they say? Otherworldly craft. We have information about them. We will be releasing. That's huge. That's huge.
Right.
So do you think, with the Pentagon coming out saying, yes, we have craft from off-world, do you think that could be a cause in, UFO reports? More people are saying, oh, the government's coming out talking about it. Now we can actually talk about our stories.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, because people are very reluctant to report. The cover-up has been very effective. The Condon Committee, the Robertson panel, all who said, oh, UFOs are hallucinations. And there's been a very concerted effort to make people who see UFOs look like liars.
Right.
Drug addicts, So hoaxes, hallucinations, and misperceptions. That was the Air Force, byline.
Right.
And that was our tax dollars. Thank you very much. Being spent to make UFO witnesses look like fools. This makes me angry. When they knew full well this was a real phenomenon, they knew it. They still did it. So this is kind of why I'm in the field. They bungled it. I'm mad. This can't go on, and they're still doing it. The cover-up is still going on. Make no mistake. They are covering up all kinds of information. They have the saucers. They have the bodies. They have the technology. Any film that will convince any skeptic. They've got it.
So, were you disappointed, or were you excited by Storm Air 51?
Yeah, I was.
Were you disappointed by the response?
Yes. Yeah, I don't want violence to occur, but, protests are effective, and our government needs to know that we are absolutely aware of what's going on in 51. It's become what we call an open conspiracy. We all know. We know UFOs are being reverse engineered. We know it's multiple levels down. Aliens are probably working there. It's not just Robert Lazar. The story, by the way, is becoming increasingly confirmed. I've always thought it was real because he's just not the only one. He's just the one who got famous.
Right. I was stationed in Germany when he first came out back in, the 90s with his story. And I believed it then, and I still believe it, when he came out the second time recently, in the last couple of years. So what convinced you the most about him, years ago?
Well, it was just the full-on general details. The fact that there wasn't an enormous amount of activity surrounding Area 51. I did a book on UFOs over Nevada, and this shocked me. Get this. I think it's 87%, maybe it's 84, but I'm pretty sure it's 87, is federally owned by the government of Nevada. All the land. That's a lot.
Of the state?
Yeah.
Yep. So
and I know you've heard the stories about the dam. I think it's great. It's not Grand Coulee. Yeah, what's the dam that's in Nevada?
Hoover.
There you go. I know you've heard the stories about Hoover.
Yeah, I have no first-hand information. But after I don't question. Gosh, how can I put this? I don't doubt things. I've become very skeptical ever since learning UFOs were real because it was a real adjustment.
Right.
Like now I have to really question everything. But to keep finding out that this is real is a difficult thing to deal with. So, yeah, there's no doubt UFOs are real. Skeptics don't have a leg to stand on. They haven't done their homework. Anyone with any amount of sense who takes an objective look at the evidence has to be convinced. We have every person from every level of society, whether it's presidents, senators, governors, heads of state, high military officials from colonels on down, have seen UFOs. There's no doubt this is a real phenomenon. For the way to be treated like it is now is a travesty. It's got to be mainstream, and it's gonna happen.
Hey,
I agree with you 100%.
There you are.
Hey, Barry came back.
So and I've gotten over the years. I've gotten in the same fight with other paranormal groups. Is that how can you believe in a spirit, but you can't believe there might be a UFO or an alien? From the emergency management perspective of it, it's easy enough to clear a spirit, to pass over a spirit, to combat out a malevolent entity. But what do you do about the alien abductee? You can't stop an alien abduction.
No, you can't.
So
well, think about how self-centered as a people we have to be to believe that out of all the stars, all the galaxies, and all the worlds out there, that we are the only life.
And that's why that's why I get so frustrated, because you can talk to the cryptologist, who has no doubt there's a Bigfoot. But oh my God, there's not a spirit. I don't believe in spirits, or I don't believe in UFOs. But we've got Bigfoot and Dogman, and that's why I argue they're all in the same umbrella. They are all in the same field. When it comes to helping the client, whether you're passing over the spirit, whether you're doing a Bigfoot investigation, whether you're watching the sky with the telescope, and helping the abductee. It kind of baffled me, because I was kind of backwards. In '94, I got into the abduction field. I've never been abducted. I know that for a fact. But working with abductees since '94. I didn't have my first UFO sighting until, '96, '97. And my second sighting in the same place a year later. My third sighting in Iraq going over Syria. And then I've had multiple sightings here in concrete in the last few years.
In the last few weeks.
Well, I already count those. It's like, there's another one. Woo! Yeah.
Right. We were all sitting out here by the fire about
2 weeks ago.
What, 2 weeks ago? Yeah. And out comes this shining light, and it keeps flashing. And it's going across the sky.
It's a strobe light.
It's basically like a shooting star, except for the fact that it's flashing and it's jumping from spot to spot. So there's no way that it could have been any kind of shooting star or anything like that. It was definitely interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other one, because you can tell what a satellite is supposed to do. You can you know what shooting stars are. You know what meteors are. You know what, yeah. But this one was going quick, and it slowed down. And then it actually made a U and started going the other direction, and then stopped. That's not a satellite. Satellites don't speed up, and not to my knowledge anyway. Maybe they do. I have no idea. But that's not a normal satellite behavior.
Well, they don't come to a dead stop, and they don't turn brighter and then darker and then brighter and then darker.
Not generally.
Right.
Yeah.
No, only if they want to be noticed.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And
it was like a big waving sign. Hey, how are you? Here we are.
Yeah.
You guys were looking up, and you were looking for us, so we decided to pop by.
And it looked like a star. It wasn't a mundane craft. It wasn't a helicopter. Same thing. Mm-hmm. So people ask, well, what about the one in Iraq? Was that one of our craft? No, I actually had a crew chief, and I actually had a helicopter mechanic with me. We all three were watching this craft, and it was triangular shaped. Now, with argument's sake, could it have been an experimental craft? By all means. I'm not saying it was alien. But it wasn't ours. The whole entire light pattern was not a human craft. To our knowledge. To our knowledge, anyway. And so it made me feel better getting confirmation from crew chief and, a mechanic that works on aircraft, soldiers that were with me. Because they know aircraft better than I do. And it was hovering over It was hovering over Syria, and it was one of those triangular craft that would speed up and stop, move slow, and it showed up for about 3 nights in a row and then didn't come back.
Now, there's a lot of talk about triangular craft being our own. I think some of the UFOs people see are our own.
Right.
But Phoenix Lights, no, I doubt it.
Right.
Put Luke Air Force Base on total high alert.
Yeah.
And certainly some for sure. But I know many cases where people have seen triangular craft which are definitely not our own.
No.
No way. There were ETs on board. It was a whole abduction scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if they have one, they're obviously reverse engineering it. So whatever they come out with is going to look similar to it in shape and size. But there are specific ones that definitely are out of this world. They are not human made.
So how long have you been with MUFON? And I haven't ever asked Barry this, but what kind of training does MUFON give you to be a field investigator?
Well, I joined early on. They give you a field manual. You're supposed to study it, and you take their test, which was back in the day was a take-home test. This was before the internet. When I thought, well, take-home, this is going to be pretty easy.
Right.
Which it wasn't. It really wasn't. A lot of photography questions, a lot of weather questions. Meteorology is pretty complicated. Astronomy as well. UFO history. I ended up doing really well. I missed just a couple of questions. But back then, it was not nearly as structured, I think, as it is today, where they give classes. They just kind of threw you in the deep end. Like, here you go. Okay, you passed the test. Here's a case.
That is exactly the way that they did it. But and now they've so well improved at that because they bring you in as a trainee. First, you do 4 cases with seasoned investigators, and then we put you into the category of a certified field investigator after you've done 4 or 5, 6 cases when we feel that you're comfortable and you got it down. And then we still have training on different things. And then as you go farther and you do more cases and more cases, then you have the option to go to what we call the STAR team, which is a rapid response team in your state. It's handled by state directors. It used to be handled, used to be able to go all over the place. Currently right now, though, it does just do the states. And so if you get a case that you have to go on right away, you grab your to-go bag and you shoot out, and you're there within 48 hours.
So is that at your own cost, or does MUFON pay for it when you go out on an investigation?
It's at your own cost. And when it used to be, there was only one time when they weren't doing that, and that was back in the SIP program. And I don't know, Preston, if you were involved in that or not. I was involved in it, and which is the famed, if you will, the Bigelow ordeal.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, but that was the only other time. We are volunteers. Every one of the group is volunteers. You pay for your dues. You pay for your investigation manual, and that's what you do. And you go and investigate these UFO cases, and you put them in our system, which is called the CMS system, and which categorizes all of and keeps all of the records for states and even international things. And it gives you a lot of different, you can go search databases and pull up quite a lot of different information on it.
I think I still have my field investigator's manual somewhere. I'm not sure. It's in a blue binder.
Yeah, that's an old one.
So I was with MUFON for a minute back in '99 in Atlanta, Georgia. But my experience, and it was negative, I'll admit, but my experience with MUFON back then was negative. It was all about, and even talking to the other investigators in Atlanta, It was all about debunking the experiencer more than it was actually investigating or proving anything. I know every state's different. That's why you and I get along great, Barry, because
Yeah, thanks.
you handle MUFON differently. Love hearing your experiences, Preston. I know you can't talk negative about MUFON on the show, but just only speaking from my own personal experience, yes, it was negative. I know years change. This was 20 years ago, well, over 20 years ago, so everything improves with time. It's supposed to.
Well, that's all growing pains and everything else, man. And, you have people that have ego. You have different things in certain areas. And you just have to weed through that. And it takes a little bit of time to do that. And that's what the SDs do. And that's what, we basically form our own group here within the area. The investigators work within a state. And they are driven by the state director or the chief investigator or even the assistant state director. And, we do our own training. We do our own, we have our monthly meetings. We do those kind of things to help inform and bring things up. So it's come a long way compared to where it was.
Mm-hmm. I think, in Georgia, they didn't have meetings. I think communication is important. If you want to keep your team in communication and feeling like a part of it, then yeah, you have meetings. You share what's going on. You share cases within your team members, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably the big difference. You being in California, Preston, do you fall in with Lorian Fenton, or I believe she's the Northern California director?
Preston, you out there?
Is there anybody
Says he's still here.
there?
Yep. Sorry, I was on mute.
No worries.
Yeah, definitely know Lorian. Spoke at UFOCon 2020.
Right.
And that was in February. And absolutely.
That was the last UFOCon, wasn't it?
Yep, it was.
Yeah.
Again, I think how the director of a state or a region handles their team really does make an impact in how that team's going to respond and how the interaction is going to be.
Well, I think with any team, for any business or company or anything like that, you got to keep the morale up.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have a good morale and you don't have good inner relations with your team, then it's not going to work no matter what.
Nope. We know that.
Exactly. You got to foster a team. You got to foster a team experience, just like you do with a paranormal team, anything else. Our paranormal teams are family. Our UFO things are family. We work well with other state investigators. I work a lot with Angela Shearer out in down in Tennessee, San Marano in Illinois, and we just try to do the best we can do out here. And California is a totally different thing. They have hundreds of investigators out there. It's a large area, and they have a lot more sightings. So they use more things per capita, just like here in Kentucky, per capita being on the 37th parallel. We do seem to get a lot of cases, but it's not to the tune of, depending on how many people are here. I mean, when you look at California is going to have massive amounts of
absolutely
of things just because of the sheer number of people. And you go to other states like Idaho and those kind of things where you're very rarely going to see a few cases because of the people there. Montana, Wyoming, all those they're all different. So you all have to work in a different way to be able to keep that together.
And with that, it is time for our first break. So when we come back, we will carry on with Preston Dennett.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
All right, welcome back. Oh, so we're still fresh. Remember, folks, you're listening to a 24-hour marathon, and I forgot to tell you. Remember, throughout the next 24 hours, well, 23 now, but there will be 5 different mystery words that will be announced throughout these next 24 hours.
And the first 5 people to send us those mystery words to S4
Radio
winner at gmail.com will receive a prize from us.
Absolutely. So don't forget. And I'm not going to tell you what just listen, because I'll tell you what the mystery word. It's going to be, this is the mystery word, and whatever. Throughout the next 24 hours.
Yeah, they'll be listed throughout the whole show, each show. You never know when it's going to show up.
Thank you. Izzy posted the email address in the chat room.
Yes.
So don't forget also, we do have the Spreaker chat room, and we have the S4 website chat room.
Which is explicit.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
I'm not even monitoring that one. I know you are, and I know Izzy is. So, Preston, what are your thoughts? And we've kind of already covered this, but I got to ask you anyway. It's in my list. What are your thoughts about what UFOs are, and how many types of craft have you seen?
Well, I'm pretty convinced we're dealing with extraterrestrials. I know there are other theories to explain this phenomena. I think the extraterrestrial theory is the one that fits best, and I'm hesitant to call it a mystery. I think we know what it is. And I think the evidence speaks towards that. I'm not saying all UFOs are extraterrestrial. There's probably some, time travelers, interdimensional. They could still be extraterrestrial. That doesn't preclude that. But yeah,
Okay.
I know Jacques Vallée, John Keel, Jerome Clark. There's a theory that this isn't ET at all. I think there are some cases, that are probably not ET as we would think of it.
And then there's the ones that it's not aliens; they're actually demons. And no, there's a big difference between an alien and a demon.
Dude, but that would freak you out. You have like some time traveling evil demon thing. I'm just saying.
No, I read all the books on demonology. I ended up investigating some really scary hauntings that went full on to possession, and that is a phenomena for real. I mean, there's no doubt about it that this is a valid phenomena. That there are evil spirits, but it follows a very set pattern. Usually picking on one person, manifesting slowly. It goes to oppression, closing doors, cold spots, all these weird ways that it manifests. And we know pretty much, how it's going to develop and what happens. I'm convinced it's a different phenomena. They're related in some way, but I just don't think, near-death experiences are the same, UFO experiences either. People have tried to link those. I'm like, no, they're separate. People have a near-death experience. Yeah, they go through a tunnel of life. They usually meet deceased loved ones.
Right.
It's a completely different thing.
Well, and again, I've said it on the show before. We handled 5 to 10 cases a day, and so when you're looking at 5 to 10 cases a day for times a year, and we actually dealt with maybe 2 true demonic cases. That tells you right there they are rare. They do happen, yeah. I'm not debating that whatsoever. Demons are rare, but not everything you encounter in the paranormal is a demon. Attachments can come across as demonic, but they're not demons, they're attachments. Negative spirits. Also, pissed off spirits. If you were pissed off when you died, then yeah, you're going to be a pissed off spirit as well. Your personality does not change until you pass over. So,
right. Well, and that's the thing, is it also comes down to what they are explaining it as. Okay, because there's a lot of people out there that'll say that there is a demon in their house, when what they're really talking about is a poltergeist or a malevolent entity or something of that nature. But they would describe it as that because in their belief system, that's what it would be.
Well, either belief system or what they saw on TV.
We have 4 demons in our house.
We do, and they are all
Kids
starting
do
on
not
one
count.
scoop.
Yes.
Well, Eric, like I believe they're demons, but I know them. My kids count. That's a little harsh.
No, kids are not demons. Come on now.
The big thing about, the biggest thing you got with the conception of dark entities and everything else, there's people who see shadow people.
Right.
And the first thing that they say is, oh, there's a dark, evil thing in my house. Or there's a demon in my house because they represent black as a dark and terrible thing.
Yeah,
and
but
which is so far from the truth, it's ridiculous.
the thing is, they get that from TV, because what does Ghost Adventures, what does, Dead Files, everything they encounter, quote unquote encounter, they claim is a demon. So when you don't know anything about the paranormal but what you see on TV, oh my God, they said it was a demon, it must be a demon. So,
Well, and it also comes down to the religion of the client as well.
Oh, well,
because
absolutely.
there are certain people that they have been raised in a religion that speaks of the fact that if it is doing this, this, or this, then it has to be a demon.
But you see, that was my parents.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as aliens. And even today, we don't argue about it. We just don't talk religion. But, even growing up, I wasn't into UFOs. I could care less. I watched the 1970s UFO documentary and went, that's kind of cool. But I didn't give a damn. Same thing with Bigfoot. I wasn't interested in Bigfoot until 2017 when I heard my first Bigfoot knock up on the mountain behind the house. And I knew what it was. And then I got into Bigfoot. I think, some people don't care until it happens to them. And that's when they pay attention.
I always
True,
like to make
true.
sure I know things about who's going to be in charge, so when our alien overlords come, I'm going to know them very well.
Alien overlords. Okay. So, how many... go ahead.
Yeah, I have had some weird cases that have this sort of mixture between UFOs and ghosts. There's another one, haunted apartments in Van Nuys, California. They were just having this really bad haunting. Two ladies had moved into this apartment. Turned out to be a retirement building. A lot of people were dying. Ambulances were coming. Maybe that's a factor, but they saw apparitions, cold spots, moving objects, missing objects. Neighbor or friends would come over and they'd run out screaming like, something happened. So they were having a real problem with it. When I ended up talking to the neighbor, the apartment manager, she's like, "Oh my God, thank God you called." 'Cause all these people were having experiences. So these apparitions were actually trying to enter into their body and possess them. So it was a pretty serious situation. They ended up moving out, but during the middle of all this, they had this one experience where they heard this really loud humming noise, and they're like searching around for it, and finally realized it's coming from outside, go out into their balcony, and this is downtown Van Nuys, pretty populated area.
Right.
There's this huge U-shaped craft right over the apartment building. It's obviously there for them. They feel like that. It's right there. It's got all these lights on it, very low. Making this humming noise, and just darts off after, there was this kind of I see you see me exchange. And I'm like, okay, what is that? Yeah, what does that mean?
And was that their first UFO encounter?
Yeah, first and only, and it's got to be related to what's going on. I don't know if the ETs are, can see what's going on, if they are partly responsible. Neither of them had a UFO history that they would admit, at least.
Right.
So I'm not going to rule that out, but normally people are forthcoming when they want answers.
Well, do you think that some of the ETs are coming from another dimension, and they're within that dimension, and that's why it bumps ghosts and everything else are in also separate dimensions? We have 12 different dimensions that we're are aware of, and we also have, on this plane, there is time. On other planes and everything else, there is no time. There's nothing there at all. So they have the abilities to be able to come through this. Say they're fourth and fifth dimensional beings that can actually travel through the dimensions to be able to do that. And I'm sure the same spirits or whatever use the same doorways, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we talk about dimensions. We can talk about them in terms of quantum physics and mathematics, or in terms of spirituality and the other side and out-of-body experiences, which is definitely related to UFOs. And yeah, I think the ETs have mastered this, and being taken on board a UFO is in many ways like going to the other side. I mean, it's like going to another dimension, seriously. And that's why there's weird time differentials in some of these cases. And amnesia, and it explains a lot of different things. But
it does.
And UFOs are, I was just talking about this. UFOs are in some ways are kind of like time machines. Mm-hmm. They have the ability to, if you can traverse any distance, that sort of collapses time in a way.
What is time really relevant? Because time's a human construct, really.
Right, in the third dimension it is, but in any other dimension I don't think it's relevant at all. But at the same time, neither is space, because it's really funny. From a lot of the reports that we've had from abductees and everything else, when they look at a craft, or even when we take a report, we may see a craft that is, people call it a 40-foot craft, Mm-hmm. And then when they're inside that craft, it seems like it is endless. It is gigantic. It's almost like a living, total conscious being of itself. And that's how it's developed and so forth. And then other times there's what they call the gigantic motherships, where they can be anywhere from 500 yards to a football field or 100 yards. And the same thing happens to them, because they get there, and the next thing you know, the abductee is talking about being walked through this area, seeing different things, and it just seems like the ship has become a massive thing. And one of the fun, amazing things about it is that it seems like they're always talking about the races talking to them through the mind. Just talking through them through ESP, or however you would want to use it. But at the same time, they also are talking they also control the ship that way. Mm-hmm. Have you had cases like that, Preston?
Yep. That seems to be the rule for sure. Well, telepathy is pretty much always the rule on board a UFO. I interviewed this one guy from the Netherlands, and I'm like, well, is English your primary language? He's like, no, actually, it's Danish. And I'm like, is that how the ETs spoke to you? And he's like, he says, yeah. They said, don't be afraid in perfect Danish. I thought, telepathically.
Well, do you think, I'm just going to throw this up here, but do you think it's actually telepathically speaking to you, or their technology and their translation systems are so far advanced that it seems that way to us? Because that's what we can wrap our mind around.
Right. No, I think it's telepathic, because there are a couple of very rare scattered cases where there are instruments used and people hear the voice coming out of the belt or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that almost never happens. It seems very clear that telepathy is sort of the universal language. And telepathy has been proven in a laboratory setting, by the way, among humans. It's a real thing, no doubt.
Oh, for sure. I definitely believe that telepathy is a real thing.
I know in my cases that I have been personally dealt with, it is just it's bizarre, because it's coming from inside your head. It's your ears are totally shut up, but you hear it as plain as spoken words that you hear through your ears. It is just amazing. And it's funny when Preston said he was talking to a person that speaks in Danish, don't be afraid. That seems to be one of the first things that they all say. My first case back in '64 was, no one else can hear you. I was screaming like bloody murder. And no one else can hear you. Don't be afraid. We're just here for you. Everything's fine. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, but that's not going to make you not be afraid. I'm here for
Yeah,
you.
I know it.
I'm here for you, but don't be afraid. Here's some candy.
Right.
No, it don't work that way.
Yeah, especially when you're 9 years old, you're kind of like,
Right.
holy
If
cow.
they offered me candy, I'd probably go. I'm
No.
just saying.
No, hell no.
Well, I would.
No.
It depends on what kind of candy.
Right.
There's candy corn. No, I ain't going.
Drink the Kool-Aid. Yeah. No, we'll get to the Kool-Aid later.
No, they don't want to hurt people. That's not their agenda. I don't think there's any evidence to really prove that at all.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, and I do believe in my own personal belief, and, when we talk about move on everything else, this is my belief. I do believe that a lot of the abductions that people have, they don't remember. And then the bad ones they remember could be related to my lab because of the fact that they are wanting to know why this other race of beings is contacting them, trying to raise their frequencies, their consciousness, and have a different agenda for them, other than what the ones that may be working for another, for another reason, And there may be battles going on up there. I've thought about that, and I believe I've seen that before. But it's a very touchy situation when you start doing that, because then people are talking about, you're a conspiracist theory, you're this, you're that. I don't know what you think about it, Preston, but I've seen so many different cases and heard so many different things that it leads me to that.
Yeah, I try to be really objective in my research and just let people tell their own stories.
Right.
Because some can, there's a bell curve. There are some very friendly stories and some that really aren't.
Right.
And some that are just very strange. I mean, the high strangeness level in some of these cases goes beyond what certainly challenged my own belief system.
Yes, I agree with that.
Right? So we do the best we can. This is still a new field and really deserves a lot more attention than it's getting.
And you got to be careful using the term conspiracy theory anymore, because Homeland Security, for example, is looking at conspiracy theories, especially with, oh my God, where did COVID come from? And all the conspiracy crap that comes behind COVID. When you're looking at some of the rumors that get flown around, and affecting people today, they're actually to the point of calling some conspiracy theories or conspiracy theorists terrorists, and that's where you have to kind of toe the line with what you're throwing and how valid the information you're throwing is. Alex Jones, for example, no. Alex Jones to me is a radical. Watch what you throw around. Is it going to kill someone because you haven't validated that information? That's where you have to be careful with the conspiracy theories.
True.
So,
I agree with you.
With the telepathy portion, do you think once that contact is made, then no matter what space and time or distance they are, they can still make that contact? Or do you think they need to be within a certain range?
That's a hard question. I can only speculate, but I'm going to say space and distance doesn't matter when it comes to telepathy. People often feel these cases coming, they're about to have contact, and they can feel it. Or the day before, or hours before, or right before it happens. So there's an element to telepathy that goes way beyond distance, for sure.
Yeah, there's still the part about it when you are in your home and all of a sudden you just have that urge to go outside, which we talked about earlier. And they just are like calling you, and that phone line is there in the mind, and consciousness is a real thing. They deal with the conscious mind. and it's totally different. So there's no time and space. It's just like astral travel. I mean, you can travel to see other things and go through quite a lot of different things, but and be in spots while you're in your body. And it's no different. It's no different. That's the way that I look at it.
Interesting.
Okay, so Preston, how many alien races do you think there are, in your personal opinion? And what is the agenda? And I get, I have to ask this of every guest that focuses on UFOs and aliens. And I get every race has their own agenda. They do what they do. But what's your opinion on how many alien races there are, and what's their different agendas?
I would say there's 4 or 5 main types, but really an endless amount. Mostly I get grays, some variation, which is a real generalization, because I think they are probably different types of grays. Really short ones, which may be robotic androids. We seem to have some indication of that. But taller grays who are more emotional, which could be completely different, as well as praying mantis. It's a strange thing, but this is a definite category that's fairly significant, as well as totally human-looking, but usually, when I say human-looking, tall, muscular, good-looking, perfect genetics of all different races, by the way, not just Nordic.
Okay, I'm about to say, is that the Nordics?
Yeah, the Nordics, but that's kind of a misnomer because they're not all Caucasian.
Right. Right.
There's cases involving people who the guy said looked like from their South America, or another guy said this guy looked actually Middle Eastern to me. So these are human-looking ETs. Is my term that I like best, at least.
Right.
So those are the main categories. I do get a few reptilian.
Okay.
Not always super associated with UFOs. I mean, seem to be a little bit independent of craft sometimes, which is kind of interesting.
And so real quick, the reptilians, I would have to add some of the. You're absolutely right. Cause now you got me thinking. So you got different reptilian types. Some of them are associated with mountain areas. From my experience, I don't think I remember ever hearing about reptilians associated with craft. So yeah, interdimensional.
Right?
So yeah, I'd have to say interdimensional, and some of them actually live here in the mountain areas.
But there's this weird catch-all category of short humanoids,
right?
Tall white light beings. I mean, dwarfs, hairy, maybe not hairy. It's just endless and impossible to categorize, and they're almost all humanoid. I will say that in form.
Or in distorted in some way. They may have 3 toes. They may have 3 fingers. They can be smaller, but they do look like feral humans almost. They look at it a different way.
Who are the 3-toed?
I have been finding these in Kentucky, and I hate to use that thing. I'm not even going to say the name, but there has been a lot of them. I believe they're cave dwellers. They have an alien look to them. There are kind of some of them can be very reptilian looking, and then other ones can be very human. 4 foot tall, very older looking, bald-headed, little whitish looking beings that have 3 tooth. They look old.
Aren't those the ones they call the ancients?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. That is what they're called here.
Are the Mafine 3-toed, or do you know?
I don't know for sure. I don't get an opportunity to get up to them and ask them their race very often. So.
No, I get that. I get that. I just know the Mafine are the ones that have the reverse knees.
Yes. But in you see different ones with that also. I mean,
Right.
Some of the reptilian races have that, which is a totally different thing than the Nephilim. But you got reptilians that have tails. Some have a longer tail. Some have a short tail. So we see all different kinds of races, different than the Draco and everything else. Mm-hmm. Some of them have terrible agendas. Some of them use us for a food product.
That's the tech Lex, from what I understand.
Well, kind of like the ancient slee stacks from the old. But it's. I was just on a case, and it was just the case that I was on last week. I was telling you about.
Right.
Glimmer type things. Basically, taking over other alien crafts we're seeing, alien beings, basically invisible glimmer, kind of like the predator type beings, smaller, and using crafts coming back and taking over even like a Bigfoot, putting poison them or changing their attitudes so that they are more like a worker or a slave. That's why you're talking about some Bigfoots will run away from certain things. Right. Some don't. So, they can really affect an area, and their agenda is not good. It's they're collectors. They want to pick up and take, whether it's for their own personal freezer or else it's a trade for a circus type deal. Look what we got here. Let's take them to planet ABC and
let's see how they interact.
Yeah.
Michael's saying, funny how some experiences sound like films and TV shows of yesteryear.
Where do you think they got the ideas?
Yeah, where chicken or the egg? Well, a lot of these films and TV shows actually get their information for the movie from fact. So yes, the Predator creature that is in Predator is a real alien race.
Well, it's been proven that we as a race don't have really original ideas. Everything that we have is based off of experiences or knowledge that we have. So all of those, what they call mythical creatures or what they call fantasy or something, it's all based on some form of reality. It has to be.
Well, and what a lot of people don't understand is
folklore.
A lot of these directors actually had inside information from government. Chris Carter, for example, it is known that he did have ties. Spielberg is another one that had ties. There are 5 directors, and I can't remember all their names off the top of my head. So I've been studying UFO cults for the last week and a half, so my brain is mush right now.
Who wrote the alien race book? I can't remember his name.
That was Dante Centauri.
Dante Centauri.
Yeah, yes. Dante Centauri. A lot of the, he caught a lot of crap when he released that book. So what I look at a lot of times when I'm looking at research, when I'm looking at different people, is what's their agenda. Dante Centauri was offered money for the book he released for free. Now, do I believe everything he said? No, I don't. I look at everything with a grain of salt. I honestly do. Some I know from experience, some I know from researching. If it balances out, then by all means, it's got to have some kind of grain of truth to it. Looking at Dante Centauri's videos for the last 7 years, a lot of them sound far-fetched, and I do think some of them are far-fetched. But you have to look at it with an open mind. You have to look at it with critical thinking.
What weirded me out is when you first told me about that book,
right?
I started reading it, and one of the pieces that he mentioned is the game Mass Effect.
Oh, yeah.
I was playing Mass Effect as I was reading this book.
And, he caught a lot of shit for that book because, a lot of the skeptics were saying, well, how can, that picture that you have of that particular alien race looks like Mass Effect. Well, yeah, he doesn't have an actual picture of the actual race. That's the closest he could come up to it. And it was a video game. Yes. He admitted that. But what I looked at with Dante is, yes, he was offered money to publish his book. And it wasn't his book, it was from the KGB. He just translated it.
And over half of the U.S. has problems with believing anything that comes out of Russia.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dante Santori. Santuri. Thank you, Izzy. And you can go on YouTube, and he has like 6 different channels because one will get shut down, you start another one. But again, you don't believe everything. You don't have to. Use critical thinking.
Michael asks if we all believe in regards to ufology, the science is being put on the back burner. I would say when it comes to the paranormal, the science is being put on the back burner. It always is. It has to be.
So,
because the science can't, we're not caught up scientifically to what we are seeing. We can't prove it.
No. I would agree, and I think we need more scientists in the field of ufology. And in the paranormal in general.
He's working.
Huh?
He's busy. He's working. Literally.
So yeah,
he will be joining us tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning when he gets off work, and he's actually doing COVID testing right now. But yes, we have our own scientist on the show. But no, and even he would tell you, we do need more scientists that are in this field that can actually, you have too many paranormal groups, and I think you'd agree, Preston. Too many paranormal groups are saying, yes, we do this for science. Well, running around with an EMF meter and getting an EVP is not scientist. It's not science. That's playing with electronics.
Yeah, well, one day these subjects are going to get the attention they deserve. I think we're moving in the right direction. We are getting to the point where we've got instruments we can use,
right,
to sort of interface with spirits and UFOs, for that matter. So I'm pretty encouraged by our progress in that direction. It's just, this is a tough field.
It is.
Really break through that wall of
tough,
skepticism. That's what I think. People are they have their worldview and they don't want to change it. It's too uncomfortable.
That's exactly right. That's where you're at, and that's where we talk about the abductees. And I mentioned it earlier when we were on break, where the abductees, a lot of the abductees that we have dealt with in the past have joked and told people, you're crazy, and all of a sudden they have this experience, and it changes their life. That becomes a PTSD type situation where it just affects them so badly that they realize everything that they had thought in their mind, everything that they thought that was, and they based their whole world around, has all been a lie. And now they're dealing with this thing that is there in front of them, and they're going, oh my gosh, they didn't tell me about this. And that's one of the hard problems about getting them back, because it does change their life.
And that's the thing too. You need to listen to the experiencer. When the experiencer has the physical marks and the implant that matches their story, that's evidence right there.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that leads to one of my questions, Preston. What's been your best evidence you have seen personally on your own investigations?
Well, each case has varying amounts of evidence. Like there was the Topanga Canyon UFO wave, which on one night there was a bunch of different witnesses. So just the fact to have corroboration from, let me see, I think there was 10 different locations, some 20, 30 different witnesses. That's great evidence to me.
It is.
But, there was other, like the Coronado Island UFO incident. Yvonne Smith wrote a book about this. I did as well with one of the main witnesses. He has some great medical evidence, apparent foreign bodies in his brain, showing up on MRIs. Got another case like that involving dental x-rays of an apparent implant. So there's all kinds of evidence, and those are some of the better physical evidence cases that I've run across.
And I think, that was a big loss to our field when Dr. Lear passed on. Because Dr. Lear was very progressive and very substantial in pulling out implants and getting evidence in that side as a surgeon. Have we found a replacement? I mean, he's a
Scott Colburn was working with him at one time.
Okay.
And I think Scott is the one who has been doing that more and more. He has had some. It's really funny how, as you develop, and I don't know if Preston believes this or not, but as you deal with this, health issues become certain things. I know that he was supposed to be going to see a few abductees and do some testing on them for implants, and woke up with went to bed well and woke up with both of his legs broken. So very interesting things that happen. I mean, it's odd, and you just have to look at the history of it. There's so many physical ailments that have happened to so many great investigators and other things that happen to it, and it makes you think sometimes. I think it's one of the most dangerous fields in the world to do what we do. I don't know how Preston thinks about it, but there are many times that we go out and we get involved in situations that you don't ever forget.
Yeah, well, I'm very passionate about UFO investigations. I got into this field, I think, pretty naive, thinking, well, wow, this is interesting. Earth's being, visited by ETs. Mm-hmm. Not really realizing there was a cover-up at first, or paid disinformation agents,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or hoaxers, just people wanting to make money. But it became pretty apparent that this was a real phenomenon, who a lot of people were struggling with, and so that's what attracted me to it. And I think the government keeps eyes on UFO investigators.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, Preston, have you ever had any My Lab experiences?
No. The worst I've ever had was some guy calling me during the Topanga Canyon UFO wave, and say, kind of, well, not threatening me, but a little bit.
Right.
He's like,
intimidating.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, he's like, are you the UFO guy? I'm investigating this case. I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, you're barking up the wrong tree. It's dangerous. You shouldn't be doing this. You don't know what you're getting into. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, what am I getting into? He's like, it's not what you think. I'm like, well, what is it? He says, there's no pay dirt to it. And I'm like, well, if there's no pay dirt, is it dangerous then? I mean, this is kind of contradictory.
Yeah.
So he was talking in circles a little bit. And, maybe some phone problems, email problems. I'm pretty sure the government keeps close tabs on this phenomena. And
Absolutely. Just watch your phone and watch your mirror when you're driving. And make sure you.
Yeah,
it is illegal to watch your phone while you're driving there.
Oh no, it's not illegal. Not the phone.
That's a
for Izzy, S4 does not condone the use of your phone during driving.
While you're driving, yeah, no, absolutely. But we've had shows where we've actually talked about the dangers of the paranormal. Being in this field and dealing with the emergency management side, you make enemies on the paranormal side. You have malevolent entities that know who you are and will follow you home. Yeah. You have the government. You've got the human element that's watching who you are. And when you're dealing with UFO landing cases, you've got the radiation, potential radiation factor. You've got so many different dangers. But does that stop us? Hell no. By all means. You threaten me, you just make me want to go forward even more.
If you tell me we're going to investigate Chernobyl, you're going by yourself.
Oh,
radiation stops.
We're not going to
It's really funny what you say it can be true, because even going on a paranormal investigation, and sometimes when UFO investigations also, I get routed certain ways. They do know that we do come, and we are coming. They're very familiar with certain investigators, spirits, and also when you're dealing with the ET situations or anything out there, they don't want you to be there. Even a spirit. Like tonight, I was on this investigation. I'm going down this thing. It's in a state park area. The home is surrounded by state parks, and I start going down this way, and I'm going. It tells me to turn right, and I turn right, and I'm on a 2-track, and I'm like going, "Oh, I know this is not the way to this house." And the next thing you know, I've said, "I'm just going to turn around and see where it goes," and it tells me to go another way. I was 5 miles away from the house and end up 11 miles away from the house. Finally get there 15 minutes late. Why is that? Very...
They backed you up.
Very, very, very different. Very different, and other people going the same way I am, they had no problem getting there or anything else. So, very, very odd to me, I think. So.
Maybe they knew something you didn't, like you would have been the one to find something. So
yeah, you never know.
They slowed you down.
Yeah, so it is that kind of way, and it does make you think that way. I've been on investigations and come on the way home and been pulled over by a highway patrol, and a white SUV pulls in and a black SUV pulls in front of me, and they never get out of the vehicle. They say, "Oh, we couldn't see your tag. Make sure your tags would go." And then I do have a permit to carry. And I have to show that to them. On certain investigations, I do take a pistol, and so that automatically allows them to search your vehicle for some darn reason. And then I had to move on stickers on the back of the window, and I had paranormal things on it. And the paranormal team does all kinds of different things. And, we do the strange creatures, we do the hauntings, we also do the UFOs. And the guy walks back, gives me everything, and he says, you ought to watch that UFO stuff, stick to the ghosts. And I'm like going, oh, that's pretty interesting. And I go inside my truck, and he has poured my coffee out all over my inside of my truck.
That's coffee abuse.
Yeah, that's not.
That's just not acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I found there was 2 things in my truck that I have them here in a nice little bag that I keep, and kind of a souvenir. After I went to the next exit and got some paper towels and cleaned up my truck a little bit and everything else, and got a new cup of coffee. And as I'm cleaning it up, I find these two strange round balls in my cup holders. So, and I've kept them ever since. They weren't in my truck ever before he looked at them, but they were in there afterwards. And I still think that they do know that what you're talking about and who you are. So it's very, very different.
Yeah. We know there's secrecy. What do you think is behind all the government secrecy? Why are they trying to keep it quiet?
I think there's multiple reasons. One is it's kind of been the policy they adopted from the very beginning. So they've dug themselves into this hole, painted themselves into a corner. They've always covered up UFOs.
Right.
I think another reason is, money, greed, power.
There you go. That's perfect.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it really comes down to. They have this technology and they want to hold on to it. They've got this. So there's all kinds of reasons, I think. But we're definitely seeing a change, I think, in attitude towards how this is all rolling out.
Yes.
UFOs are not going away. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
And the cat's out of the bag. There's no way but forward. So I'm hopeful how this all turns out.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, if you think about it, like the amount of technology that aliens or ETs are trying to give us, and the price tag that's on that technology coming from different government organizations and stuff. Well, think about the amount of money lost. You know.
Exactly. We're an oil economy. All our
Bingo.
Right. They
Right.
definitely want to protect that, because if they did have free energy, and they may be even using free energy on their crafts, they may be using different kinds of things that the government has already developed. I mean, we were looking at planes not too long ago that are, hydrogen driven. There was one that's a warp driven one. I've been doing a lot of research on that, and golly, it's just like opening a book and reading Star Trek. What do you mean a warp drive?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the best example for that is look at how quick they shut down Tesla. Like, the second we started talking about any kind of renewable energy source,
And that goes
it was
right into the next
automatically,
question.
hey, this guy is nuts. Let's put him over here. You know?
You know, and bringing up Star Trek, I've always thought, so the cell phone, they have a flip phone, their communication they've got
They're communicators.
resembles our cell phones today. Do you think the technology that was garnered from the Eisenhower contract or Truman contract with the aliens is part of that we have today?
Well, yeah. I mean, we can't discount that possibility. Colonel Corso was a big whistleblower on that, and no one was ever really able to truly debunk his case, at least not to my satisfaction. And
Right.
he's certainly not the only person who's said that there's been reverse engineering. It's a logical conclusion. The evidence for UFO crashes is overwhelming. It's not just Roswell or even Aztec.
Kecksburg. You got Kingman, Arizona. You got Kecksburg. You've got Brazil. You've got the Russian Roswell. You've got 3 different crashes in Mexico. I mean, they're all over the place.
Think about the Australian incidents. I mean, there's so many.
Well,
we definitely have this technology. We've got it.
Mm-hmm.
And the skeptic would say, well, you don't think humans aren't smart enough to come up with that? Well, yeah, you've got fiber optics. You've got a whole lot of technology jump that came after the Eisenhower incident. Of course, humans are smart enough, but the way it exploded.
We are not smart enough. Let's not lie.
Oh, okay. I'm giving the wonky monkeys the benefit of the doubt.
Well, if you look at the first 2,000 years, we weren't very smart. I mean, it took us a long time to be able to get to where we are over the 2,000 years until the Roswell incident. And all of a sudden, now we come out we had gigantic computers back then. Now we have small little computers. We have total different types of things. I mean, we are talking to boxes and asking questions, and we are doing all kinds of different things that are unheard of. And we did it all within the 50 years. And if you look at the Eisenhower warning in '59 about the industrial military complex, I think it's something you need to take into. I think you also have to take into consideration the treaties that were supposedly talked about, where they were. You have to let us know who is being abducted. I think some of them were. I think sometimes the government does watch that. And that's why the abductees, investigators, and everything else are so highly watched, because they don't have all the clues. They don't have everything yet, but they do want to know what certain other races are seeing that they want to control to, because the story is that beings wanted to offer us consciousness and wanted to offer us all this wonderful stuff, And then the other one, they wanted technology for military purposes because what we were in a war with Russia, a space race, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And look where it's taken us, look where it's gone to at that point. And so, and you got the legitimacy of the Phrenology desk and the CIA. You've got the aviary that included quite a lot of people that had code names as birds that are all true. It's all out there.
Yeah, and I got to give a shout out to Markham real quick. So Markham's at work. He snuck into the chat room to say hi, and he'll be here tomorrow for our last, hopefully, 3 shows.
Yeah, and Michael says with the advent of the bomb in 45, we still don't think humans were smart enough to invent fiber optics. No, I don't, because we discovered fire 2 million years ago, and we still haven't half the time figured out that hey, it's hot and it's going to burn.
Right.
Come on.
Well, it's very unusual when you got the human beings that you took from a war territory that was using and had the first crash, alien crash in 1937 in Germany, and you've got the bell, you have all those different things. You've got the Her Mama, or whatever they called those things, 1, 2, and 3, that were actually saucer-like crafts.
Well, what about what about the Tuscuga blast? That wasn't a meteor. There's no way in hell that was a meteor. That was like a nuclear blast. I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, was that the 1800s, 1900s?
Yeah, that was in the early 1800s in Russia. Where
it leveled millions of acres.
Yeah, and one of the things that was amazing about that is that they are still trying to determine if something didn't interfere with it, so it didn't hit Earth, if it was exploded above, so that it wouldn't do the damage that it could have done if it would have hit Earth.
And
okay.
Michael might be right. I think that was 1907.
Mm-hmm. Just too good.
1907 sounds right. And with that, folks, we do have to take our second break, and we will be right back, carrying on with Preston Dennett.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Scooper.
And welcome back to S4. We are still on the first show of our 24-hour marathon with Preston, Dennett.
Before you continue,
What?
I need to just say happy anniversary to my wife.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Today is our actual anniversary, and we're here with you people. So
Happy anniversary. Yeah, shit.
she might kill me later, but
Oh, happy anniversary on the 27th, Izzy. Oh, no. So just to clarify, this is the anniversary where we signed the paper and got married, and we don't count that one. The anniversary we count is actually back in May when we actually first met. That's the anniversary we actually count. So
yeah.
Both of us forget this anniversary. Like, oh yeah, it was the 27th.
This is the one we count. We actually have two as well, but this one is the one where we all remember. Well,
Right.
most of us remember the whole night.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
you're
What do you expect? It was my wedding night. I may have drinking a little too much.
But what better way to celebrate your anniversary than a 24-hour paranormal marathon?
You would have asked me 12 years ago if this would be the way that I'd spent my 12th anniversary. I'd have said, probably not.
Okay, so Preston, do you feel some of our historical figures such as Tesla, Einstein, Da Vinci were in touch with an alien source and that's where they got their information?
Well, yeah, I think it's possible. Tesla said as much. I mean, he's basically, that was his belief. And you have to admit, he's did some very incredible things. And, you have to wonder about Da Vinci, too. He's very prophetic in his thinkings, very forward. And you have to wonder how these guys got their inspiration, what makes them so different from other people. I don't know. We don't have direct evidence linking them to being like abductees as we would think of them today. But telepathic contact, perhaps. I'm not going to rule it out. Their ideas were far ahead of their time. And Tesla's ideas in particular. But yeah, Da Vinci, all these guys. Einstein was supposedly part of that meeting at Edwards, wasn't he? I heard rumors about that. I'm not sure if that's true.
I've heard the same rumors.
Right.
So yeah, they obviously know about ETs. I think once you reach that level of intellect, you probably figured it out.
And it's interesting because, prior to me getting into the paranormal field, I always thought Da Vinci was, just this random cool artist that did great art. I had no clue he had a, science background and was an inventor and whatnot. And it makes you wonder how many people actually know that.
Yeah,
other
than like draw a helicopter or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
I guess I did the other side of that.
Incredible.
Because I knew he was an inventor far before I knew he was an artist.
No, so back in the 80s, and we'll get to that in the next show, because I went to college with Arnold back in the 80s, and I had to take art appreciation. And we went to an art museum, and so my introduction to Da Vinci was really more on the art side. It wasn't. I had no idea about the whole inventor and the science side of him.
Yeah, well, thinking of paintings, it's really interesting if you look at paintings throughout the Middle Ages.
Oh,
earlier,
absolutely.
The Renaissance that show UFOs in them.
Mm-hmm. The Mona Lisa. And I believe even the original Last Supper didn't it have some kind of UFO connection?
I don't know about that one, but I looked it up once. I'm like, wow, here's one from every 100 years, starting from the 1100s onwards, 1200, 1300, 1400, right upwards through the Renaissance, and clearly UFOs. I mean, these are not like, wow, that's just a round circle. No, some of these have portholes and people looking out and people pointing on the ground and beams coming down, and like, wow, these are pretty clear.
And Joe, so Joe just got done butchering his pig. So yeah, the Last Supper of the waiter was a gray. He says, I saw that one. Not sure how valid it was, but I saw that one too. So, Preston, what's your favorite historical UFO sighting?
Well, there's certainly a number to choose from. I'm still think Roswell is one of the granddaddy of all. It's the case that's not going to go away. I want to see the craft, but I do like the Battle of L.A.
God! I wasn't even thinking of that one. Yeah. I like the Betty and Barney Hill one. I think that's my favorite because you can't deny the fact that she drew the Zeta Reticuli,
right,
before it was discovered. But no, the Battle of L.A. Yeah, but of course, you being in California, that makes sense. But no, that an awesome movie too, but not really based on fact. But yeah.
Yeah,
the Battle of L.A. Great case.
Yeah,
beautiful case, fantastic case, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
I read a book about it. Got to talk to a couple of first-hand witnesses.
Really?
And yeah, it was definitely not Japanese airplanes. 1,500 rounds of ammunition shot at this thing. Apparently, we did bring one of them down, or two, according to recent FOIA documents, Freedom of Information Act, according to Robert Wood. I don't know, but very interesting case.
Right. Yeah.
5 people died as a result of heart attacks, car accidents.
Okay, I got you. I was because so Michael was in the chat room.
Actually killed by the debris, also from the shells landing elsewhere.
Yeah, I was curious how they died because Michael's in the chat room and he said people died and I didn't hear about people dying, but heart attack, okay.
A heart attack and some debris.
And shrapnel, I can understand shrapnel.
Yeah, the whole city was blacked out.
Right.
Yeah, everything got blacked out. L.A. was totally blacked out that night.
So living in California, what are your thoughts and what have you heard about underwater bases off the coast?
Oh, I've heard quite a bit from the very beginning, 1986, when I first started getting involved in all this.
Okay.
Started really buckling down in '88, but like, wow, a lot of cases here off the coast, which is right off of LA, the Santa Catalina Channel.
Mm-hmm.
It's very deep there, about a mile deep in places, and finally decided I'm going to collect all these cases and put them on a map. I have to tell you, I found like 70 cases of objects coming in and out of the water, 70 more of them hovering over. It's a very, very active area and a very sharply defined space.
Now, on that, do you find a connection to the San Andreas Fault with those cases?
Not directly. I know there are cases where, like the Northridge earthquake in '94. I know of a couple of cases where people saw UFOs the night before it actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
True. And I know of other cases, like the Topanga Canyon UFO wave on June 14th. That was following, or right before there was. Yeah, it was right before. Like 2 weeks later, there was a pretty major earthquake. There's weird patterns like that.
Do you find UFOs attracted to the fault? Because I know. So we're up by Mount Baker, and we have Mount Baker. We have Glacier Peak, and we do find a lot of UFO sightings related to volcanoes. For example, I'm curious if you find. That's why I asked about connection with San Andreas. Being a major fault line, do you find UFOs hovering over the fault line, or like we do with volcanoes?
Yeah, only peripherally. And that maybe they do appear to be aware of earthquakes sometimes before they happen, and will appear.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like earthquake lights, I think that's a separate phenomena. I know it is. I saw them myself, honest to God, during the Northridge earthquake. Saw lights rising up out of the ground. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Later saw actual photographs. I'm like, yep, that's it. No, UFOs are different. They're not earthquake lights. But yeah, I've seen the volcano connection as well. So I'm sure that's related, and that they're pretty aware or able to detect earthquakes to some degree, at least before they happen.
So it's our thought, as far as the volcano side, that there are some craft that actually fuel up off geothermal energy, which is the volcanic connection. I'm not sure what their connection would be, other than maybe some kind of a quake energy field, or using the Earth lights, maybe. Not sure.
Yeah, well, there are cases where they do knock out power or come over power lines and perhaps steal energy from electric lines.
Yeah, there's been several of those.
Oh, yeah.
There's been actually rolling blackouts that have been recorded where, as the craft goes over, there'll be a quick blackout, and then lights come back on, and you can trace those blackout in a certain area where the craft is gone. So, yeah.
Well, and same with missile silos. They've been known to knock out missile silos. That's been documented many times.
Just look at during the flaps that we had in 73 through 75, and we had so many SAC bases that were visited and reported UFOs. Plus, we also did the same thing, in certain areas. There was a lot of different cases that were happening where people were seeing UFOs in cities and towns flying down the road, all over the area. And major areas, Mansfield, Ohio was one, I believe it was in 73.
Right.
And so, there was so many different cases during that time. And why that spike? I don't know. I've tried to look back to see what was going on during the 73 period. I just think there was a rough period of time. That's when we had a lot of different problems with rush of the walls. Same thing. We were having all those things. So who knows?
Right. Okay, so real quick, as we announced earlier, there are 5 mystery words that are going to be announced throughout the next 24-hour shows. If you are one of the first 5 to get them all to the email, you will win a prize. And so your first mystery word is Prometheus. I don't care how you spell it. If you misspell it, it's a hard one to spell.
It has to be close, guys.
Right. I'll say it again. Prometheus. Great movie. I loved it. And it's an alien movie. Not all words are going to be related to the show. But Prometheus. That's your word. Write it down. Anyway, do you feel aliens are manipulating our planet today?
Oh yeah, I think they're very manipulative, and first of all, they're completely permeating our culture, from movies to video games to advertising. So I wonder, I wonder about that.
I want to jump in real quick though. Do you think the movie side of it is the government doing a slow disclosure, or do you think the media, the movie companies are just saying, screw you, and we're going to do our own thing and do our own disclosure?
I think there's probably both. My father was in the film industry. It takes a lot to get a film made, and or a television show on TV. Mm-hmm. And there's all kinds of different factors. There's kind of a censorship factor for sure. But ultimately it comes down to money. And if people, that's what they want to see, that's what's going to come out.
Right.
So it's very hard to control, information. And I think that's why we're seeing such an explosion of UFO information.
So Joe in the chat room doesn't think they're manipulating the planet. They're probably manipulating the people. I think it's a combination of both, though.
Well, I know they're abducting people in large numbers.
Right.
We know they're abducting animals, and for that matter, picking plants. So there is a definite level of manipulation where entirely possible they've been manipulating our species genetically
Right.
for years. I
Right.
mean, for
Years.
centuries. This is what some of the evidence is pointing towards. We can't prove it, but it's certainly happening now with the reported hybrid cases.
So, what are your thoughts on the theory about them seeding the planet? Do you think they created us, or do you think that's a stretch?
I have some questions about it. I have some questions about why there are human-looking aliens, human-looking ETs that are just like us. I mean, how do you explain that? Where did they come from? They didn't evolve on Earth, did they? Did we then? Did we really evolve here? What is that? This raises all kinds of very serious questions, and has implications we can only begin to guess at. So I'm going to say no. We just don't know at this point.
So, what are your thoughts on hybrids?
It's something that is relatively unprecedented.
Okay.
In terms of recorded history and the modern history. Yeah, we think they've probably been manipulating our race for a while. But what we're seeing now, large numbers of people being taken on board, we have no record of that. Maybe that's because people couldn't read and write in large numbers. I don't know. I think it would have turned up in some way. So that's kind of weird. It makes me wonder about... Because this all started in the 1950s. And now we are hybrids fully grown up. I just wrote about that, fully adult hybrids. So maybe we're going to see a jump in evolution as we intermingle with hybrids. I don't know. It's
a hard one.
I'm going down a rabbit hole here, and I hate to do that. I just want to speak facts. And yes, hybrids are grown up now. I do think they're intermingling among us. I think we'd be absolutely naive to think that there isn't an element of, infiltration sounds so nefarious, but ETs living among us. You know what I mean? Human-looking ETs. Or the hybrids. Yeah, it's got to be happening.
That's what's interesting, because so I'm going to interject. As far as the hybrids go, so you know about the gray hybrid program that many abductees talked about in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right? So, back in the 90s, women were taken up, they were brought back down, there would be a, 2 to 3 month gestation period, they would be taken up, the fetus would be taken out, and they felt like, well, one, there was a documented missing fetus, not aborted, and there was evidence that the woman had been pregnant at one point in time. I believe it was 2016, 2015, that we actually had a case where the woman was allowed to actually give birth here on Earth. She was impregnated as normal, but instead of re-abducting and taking the fetus, she actually gave a natural birth on Earth. And the couple knew that their daughter was a hybrid. The daughter didn't know, but the daughter knew she was different than normal people. And they're, as they're taking their case, they were asking, do we tell her? Do we just let her find out on her own? And, my advice, obviously, I really didn't know how to answer that for one, but I told them, being a hybrid, not knowing it, and you're 14 years old, might freak you out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know how to answer that one, other than, okay, if you think she can handle it, and she already knows she's different, physically, she looked like a normal human, obviously, and that is where one of my theories comes in, that I do think hybrids have a different kind of implant. I think their implant is the one that's in the arm. Because if you're a hybrid, you go to the doctor, wouldn't you think your DNA would be a little different than the normal? So what if they have an implant that makes their genetics appear normal? What's your thoughts
Or what
on
if
that?
their genetics are the same? Maybe we were brought here and taken, and that's why when you do samples and look at DNA, that's why there are a lot of times that come in and say, oh, there's human DNA here, so they just kind of pitch it out.
Right.
Yeah, they're definitely interested in human genetics. We know that. That seems to be the single most common thing people report if they're taken on board is being physically examined, samples taken.
Right, exactly.
So
to be fair, I look at my food pretty distinctly first before I eat it too.
So what? They're changing our DNA to eat us later?
Oh, wow.
It depends on the race.
Well, it's one of their agendas for sure. I think creating those hybrids.
Or the garden.
We'll see what comes of it. But yeah, I'm not that worried. I don't think they're here to take over. That's kind of fear-based thinking. We have to really look at the objective evidence and say, okay, what are they doing? You know, and
well, like I said, I believe if they were here to just take over, they would have done it centuries ago.
Well, but is it really fear-based anymore? Like, do we? Well, maybe it'll be better.
They can't be kidnapping people. That's not nice. I don't care who you are. So that's a problem for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, realistically thinking, if they wanted to take over, they just drop an EMP. They've got the technology to do it. We wouldn't even know what hit us.
Yeah.
It depends on it, but it depends on like if that's you have to mean like full takeover where it's complete slavery. Any humans that are left, like eradicating the human race. But like if they're just actually taking over, as in they run us now, they run the planet.
Guess what? I live in the mountains.
But an EMP wouldn't benefit them.
Right. No.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They've already taken over. I mean, they've got what they want. They can come down and farm us and our planet, animals, plants, whatever they want. We're right here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the way I feel. It's like, all right, you know, this is kind of one of the things about government disclosure. It's going to open up a can of worms when people say, okay, you see reports are real. I'm being abducted. Do something. I'm suing you.
Right.
That is the truest statement, though, I have seen in a while. Joe says, why would the aliens want to take over? We would just blame everything wrong on them.
Yeah.
Like, we are a mess nobody wants to deal with.
Nope. All right.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting to see us moving towards disclosure and how that's rolling out. We'll see what... to hear the Pentagon saying otherworldly craft, just use that as an actual statement. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, you know, but the other side of the fence is, and some of the ufologists out there today, and even though, you know, from the bookings and every, you know, reports say that there was no alien threat through most of the reports, and now today, all we hear on TV when you're watching certain programs is about the alien threat, and that drives me nuts, because if we were in a threat situation, I think that they'd already had us at a long time ago. You know, I think it's that's a planned way to scare people into saying, "Hey, these aliens are bad," and it may be a plan of different races have different agendas, and if they're working with a certain agenda and a certain alien group, then maybe they don't want the other one here.
Yeah, there's lots of different groups. From a military standpoint, they've got to be freaking out a little bit.
True, exactly.
But I just... Yeah, there could be a false flag operation. I'm sure you've heard about this.
Right. Mm-hmm. You know, that's back when Carolyn Rosalind said that, and, you know, Water von Braun, you know, that was the deal that he talked about. And Carolyn Rosalind mentioned that in the first disclosure. You know, I think when was that, in 2003? And then to hear that in 2020 and 2019 on a TV show, and it's the exact same words. It's pretty thing. It's the alien threat. It's the alien threat. You know,
Yeah.
so
Which is not true.
it's not. Yeah.
So that might be something we're going to have to deal with if our government turns on us. And this is the motivation behind the disclosure movement. I don't think it's going to work. I really don't. People are smarter than that. People are pretty educated on this subject. It's got a tidal wave behind it of tension and knowledge and experience. And
Just look at the whole, it goes back to social conditioning. I think in a lot of ways as they have kept us dumbed down to hide some of the technology that they may have discovered and to control us in a certain way. Social conditioning becomes part of it more and more every day. We're just conditioned in every which way we look. News programs, everything, as you start bringing it forward. And so if you start pitching that aliens are a threat, that allows you to be able to have a false flag event. That everybody is going to be going, oh my gosh, and that was proven in the 40s with the World of Worlds. Look at what happened at that time.
It sure was.
And they have continually used that as their main thing. Humanity is not going to deal well with alien beings.
Well, look at humanity. Anything that we don't understand, we automatically see as a threat. That's how we automatically go. We look and we say, "Oh, look at that gorilla! Holy crap, it's huge! It's gonna come! It's gonna kill me! It's gonna destroy villages!" So we go and we attack it. Like it's been that way since forever. So I could see him saying the alien threat because it's an unknown, so therefore it must be threatening.
So Joe's got a question real quick in the chat room. If the aliens were in charge, will we get to vote for which alien was the leader? What do you think?
I don't think so. They're they're very telepathic. They seem to make their decisions in a sort of a group mind kind of way. There might be a federation of who's in charge. It's not clear, but certainly it's not the little tiny grays. Could be the
No, we'd step on them.
It's the praying mantis, perhaps. But there does seem to be ETs working together in some
absolutely.
sort of organized activity. So,
yeah.
Democratic alien overlords. Cool.
Yeah. So here's what's your favorite? And I'm not sure if you've done research on this or not, but what's your favorite presidential UFO story? And there's a few to choose from. You got Carter, you got Reagan, you got obviously Truman, Eisenhower. But do you have a favorite presidential story?
Yeah, and there's also the Nixon story as well. I'm going to say I like the Reagan story for a couple of reasons, because it had a sort of a unexpected twist at the end that I wasn't aware of. But it started out with him being governor and reportedly seeing a UFO while flying his plane, and he went public with it sort of unintentionally to a reporter. And it was kind of too late at this point, realized what he had said, but the word was out. And following that sighting, he made a number of public statements that were very provocative. And years later, I think it was Lucille Ball, the comedian, wrote a book in which he said, oh yeah, Reagan had full-on contact, was taken on board by ETs who told him he was going to become president, and goes on from there.
Right.
Grant Cameron, I think, who revealed this story.
Yeah, it was.
So I'm like, wow, this is just, each president has their little layers and their little sort of forays into this field. And Reagan's was quite a little trip there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you know, and it's really funny. George Washington was the first president ever, and he had a UFO experience, what he considered to be a UFO experience. There was one after that. Lincoln was one of the ones that had an experience. So there's been several presidents that have been elected through the 45 we have now that have had experiences. You know, and same thing with people in Congress. You know, Dennis Kucinich. You know, half these people that are running for president right now have had these things. So, you know, have had dealings or sightings with crafts that are not conventional in their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Not a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, I don't think it is either.
Like musicians, a lot of sightings among musicians, like John
absolutely.
Lennon. Mm-hmm. And musicians are, of course, influential, and we see some of this coming through in their songs.
Exactly.
Getting the message out, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, that takes me back to the consciousness of all of it. If they are dealing with the conscious mind and communicating to bring things to people through consciousness and through the telepathic. I mean, just look at that's what you're talking about with Einstein. Same thing with Tesla. Same thing with musicians. They're getting these different type of things that most people don't, and you know, it's something to think about. When you look at the situation, it's such a vast thing. You do have to be careful because where you go with it, but you want to try to do the most as you can on facts. But when you're dealing with this, some of the facts are really hard to take. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still trying to adjust to the fact that UFOs are real, and it's been 35 years.
Right, right, exactly. And, you know, it's just like going, what is it, the Ramada, look at it in India, and going back way beyond times when they were seen and written about in books and everything else about battles happening over India. You know, it's kind of unusual, isn't it?
Yeah. Vimana are a huge thing in India. I mean, it's in their paintings, it's in their scripture,
right.
It's in every part of life.
Everything. Right. Right. Exactly. You know, how to get there. It's, you know, somebody had to witness this to write it down. So.
Oh, look at the Mahabharata. You know, the Torah.
The Mahabharata is nothing but that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know, even I think there's references in the Torah. I know there's references in the Quran. Obviously, the Bible with Ezekiel's wheel. I mean, we've got just about every religious text talks about some kind of UFO or alien intervention.
Yeah.
Right.
Egyptian hieroglyphics for sure.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Native
Absolutely.
American petroglyphs. So, yeah, the Native Americans have a very strong culture that says that our ancestors came from the stars. So,
Well,
yes.
and
Star beings.
in oh God, is it Nigeria or Nairobi? There's an African tribe that actually worships the dog man.
Yeah, well, Dogon.
The Dogon.
Dogon.
The Dogon.
Dogon. But they were worshiping their being came in and went in the water and was like fish-like. It
Right.
was starting off with, and
The great river of life.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and they still have ceremonies today for that. You know, and it's very unusual because even in Dogon, you look at the buildings and the structures they have, and you look at all the different structures around the world. They're very similar, you know, to a pyramid, the Mayans, and all the other things, all the same dwells. So when you, I mean, how's that possible? Who in the heck, you know? I mean, you would think that they would be building different types of buildings, but no, they all have the same thing. And were they all visited, and we were all done so that they can land crafts on them or do that. Who knows?
Well, they taught science and agriculture, and I think we have evidence that they've been trying to uplift us for a long time, and they're still.
Oh yes, so much.
But we're a violent species, and this is why we have like Greys like completely freaked out about our emotions. To be very, very interested in our emotional, structure.
Well, yeah, and a lot of them don't have emotions. As
They don't understand
you mentioned
emotions.
earlier. They don't understand emotions, so the things that they can put you through allows them to look at your emotions. The things that you deal with after an abduction is emotional stress, and they monitor it. Same thing with spirits, and that may be one of the things that has that correlation. You talk about high strangeness. Same thing. What does the spirit feed off? Negative energies and whatever that you can promote, they try to destroy it. It's all on your emotions. It's all based off an emotional level.
Okay, we are coming down to the last 20 minutes, so I want to talk about your books, because you've got a phenomenal amount of books. You've got 27 books you've written. What was your inspiration for writing? You've been a researcher for years. What inspired you to write about it?
I kind of always felt like I knew that's what I wanted to do, so that's partly it. But yeah, I was just so completely, broken. I don't know what the word is. Just I couldn't believe UFOs were real.
Right.
I felt like this is an important subject. How come no one's talking about this? I couldn't believe my family, my own family, my friends, my coworkers had all kind of lied to me. Basically kept a secret.
Right.
I was skeptical and I would be mean about it, so I get it. But it really put me on a mission to get the word out about this, and I just feel like it's a super important subject that we could really, this subject has the potential to really change people's behavior, our outlook on life, could we could solve the environmental crisis, the energy crisis, the economic crisis, by just releasing this ET technology and facing the fact that we aren't alone. We have people out there who, may be different from us, but are not that different. They're basically humanoid. That seems to be universal. So it's time that people know. I don't know. I'm obsessed. I don't know why. I haven't been abducted, but I just can't let it go. I can't let it go.
Well, that's the thing, though. That's a good thing, because it's hard to find a good book anymore. It honestly is. You don't know. There's so many fringe that you've got. Oh my God, the Queen's a reptilian. I'm going to write about it. It's hard to find valid books. It honestly is.
Yes.
That's why I want to push your books. So what's your favorite topic to write about? And part two to that question, which is your favorite book? If you had to pick one of your books, what's your favorite book that you wrote?
Probably Onboard UFO Encounters. Not my latest anymore, but was very recent. But Inside UFOs is a close runner-up. I like writing about people who've had really intense experiences. People who have dealt with actually going on board, seeing UFOs face-to-face, communicating with the ETs. But I also like writing about weird patterns in UFO behavior, like driving encounters or schoolyard UFO encounters.
Right. Not the outside the norm patterns.
Right. I wrote a whole series of books called Not From Here, which are about the outlying type of cases which are weird and bizarre and high strangeness. And so I like it all, I guess is what I'm trying to... But,
right.
My favorite book would have to be Onboard UFO Encounters, but also really liked UFOs over Topanga. That was a very old book. That's from 1996. But man, oh man, I never had a case like that where these things were just flying around, chasing cars down the road, lifting them up, hovering over people's houses. So many people were seeing them. It was just a crazy wave of sightings.
And that just reminds me, I'm sure you're familiar with the Brooklyn, New York case where the woman was taken out of her, I can't remember what floor, but it was witnessed by the UN ambassador on the Brooklyn Bridge. I mean, you can't get any... Yeah, there's just some cases that there's no denying it. Mm-hmm. And it's, the more witnesses you have of an event, the more valid that event becomes. I'm right there with you. I'm definitely going to have to run and grab your Inside the Craft book, because that's always fascinated me, too. My first book I picked up back in '94 when I got into this field was David Jacobs' Secret Life of Abductees, and that was phenomenal, especially when you've never even heard of abduction, and it's real. It's like, oh my God. When you actually see evidence personally that doesn't happen on a normal, and that's how I got thrust into it. I've never been abducted, but I knew an abductee who had a missing fetus, So coming from thrust into this field and that perspective, and then getting David Jacobs' Secret Life book in '94, it pissed me off because there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing to do to stop it. I
remember my first book was Betty and Barney Hill, The Interrupted Journey. I'm like, wow.
Right.
Followed by Travis Walton, his book, the first one.
Right.
The Walton Incident. So, yeah.
Chariots of the Fire was mine. I mean, I was into Ben Donegan, That was... that set me off on a quest.
I started picking all of them up. I mean, then I read every Betty Andreasen's story.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man, and started just finding every book I could find. John Keel and
Keel Ruppel, all of them.
Donald Kehoe.
Yeah.
What's the other guy? Edwards.
Ruppel. I think I'm saying his name right.
Yeah, I love the classic writers on UFOs. Mm-hmm. They were the first to really, the Lorenzens, Jim and Carl Lorenzen.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It was great.
And I'm not sure
they were the runners at the forefront of all of it.
Yeah. Very happy with the Lorenzens for doing what they did, because they really broke this field wide open.
Yes.
So, one last question before we have to start wrapping up. If you had to think of one person that influenced you in the UFO field, I mean, you've got so many, a lot of them have passed on, and that's really killed this field because they were valid. To me, Jim Mars was influential. J. Allen Hynek, a guy. I'm trying to think.
He would be rolling in his freaking grave if they saw if he saw who played him on that show.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But is there anyone in the UFO field that from the old time that influenced you or spurred you on? Who would it be?
Well, that's a tough question. I do really like Ray Fowler's work. I think he's a real honest and thorough researcher, and that inspired me. But I met Bud Hopkins as well, and I have to tell you, he was a really nice guy. And at the time, it just Missing Time, when I first read his book, was not a bestseller. It had not been picked up by a major publisher, and I was getting cases that were just like what he had written about. I'm like, wow. I mean, this is real. These hybrid babies is a real thing. I had a case in 1988. So definitely He's on my list. I like Tim Good as a researcher. One of my favorite current is Artie Six Killer Clark. I like the work I love the work she's doing. But yeah, hats off to all the people who are out there, tramping the fields and doing the hard work, because this is not easy.
Okay, and where can folks find your books?
I do have a website. If you just Google my name, it should take you there. The actual address is prestondennett.weebly.com. Got all my books there, excerpts. You can contact me. I love hearing from people if they've got a story they want to share, a question or a comment. I really enjoy that. My books are available on Amazon.com and bookstores near you and other online retailers. And, thanks for having me on the show and being a part of this 24-hour marathon.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have a blast.
Oh, we still got... I can't count.
A lot of hours.
21 hours. 21 hours.
Yeah.
We're good.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You going to make it, Barry?
What? Who?
Who's Barry?
Who's that guy?
Oh, Barry's so tired already. I don't know if we have a bet you're not going to make it till 4.
Yeah, well, I'm at 3 now, my time.
Oh, we never said whose time. I'm going to lose. I already lost.
Go ahead.
We might have missing time. Who would know?
Right, there you go. That would be nice. I mean, could we all have missing time and the show's over now in 5 minutes?
I gotta say, thank you so much, Preston, for coming on.
Oh yeah, you're awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. And hopefully we can actually meet you at an event once this COVID lifts and we can actually start going to events and whatnot. Because we were actually hoping to go to the UFO conference in
Seaside, Oregon.
No, that was the Ghost Conference.
Oh.
UFO conference is in L.A.? No.
Yes. Well, it's San Francisco, isn't it?
San Francisco, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll happen. People you can't keep people apart. Some point or another.
So, guys, it is almost time for us to be done here. Do not forget we have our paranormal radio art contest going on. We here at S4 know that sometimes when dealing with the paranormal, what we experience cannot be properly put into words. So we're asking you, the public, to share with us your best paranormal artwork between August 1st and September 30th. We will be accepting your 2-dimensional artwork, which we will then be featuring on Facebook, Twitter, and on our webpage during the month of October. Us hosts will then pick one to win an S4 swag bag valued at $75. All 2D mediums accepted, must be 18 to enter. All artwork must be PG, no nudity please. Entries should be submitted to s4radiowinner@gmail.com. Also, I just want to throw out shout out to Dennis Coach and the UFO Buster Radio. Thank you for retweeting us on Facebook and Twitter. You guys are doing awesome for us. Thank you so much, Dennis. You're amazing.
Oh yeah, Dennis is the one who referred Preston to us.
Oh, rock on!
And that was awesome. And you're absolutely right, Preston. You are very approachable. You're definitely a communicator. So I was happy to hear back from you, for sure. Actually, was great having you on.
And remember, guys, that once this show comes to an end, you'll have to wait a couple of minutes and then refresh your page to get to our episode 2 of our 24-hour marathon.
Yeah, next up we got Arnold Hampton coming on for Missing People.
Missing People and Paranormal Mysteries in our state and national parks.
Absolutely.
That's a mouthful.
That is a lot to say.
So he was
My last two cases have been in a national park and a state forest.
Well, I'm glad you made it out. Like,
right? So he was a Washington State park ranger for 20 years and saw a lot of strange stuff and knows a little bit about the Washington State missing people. Patterns that he saw, but he had no idea about the national park situation. I approached him like 3 years ago about it because I went to college with him back in the 80s. He's a personal friend of mine. So I figured he was actually a perfect guest to have on talking about, state parks and federal parks.
Missing peoples. Yeah.
It's definitely time for coffee.
Yeah.
Cup number 6.
So we do have 2 pots of coffee going. It is going to be a long 24-hour show, but it's going to be awesome. We've never done this before. Last time I was on a 24-hour stint was in the Army, and that was 10 years ago.
It's a legendary event, folks.
It is. It actually is, because I don't know too many shows that do 24-hour marathons.
I will guarantee you I will never do one on mine.
Oh, but we'll be right there with you.
Come on. We can totally...
Totally. And
Man,
Michael...
that's all right. We'll do a 48-hour one then.
So Michael's actually offered to find a venue in California and potentially do an event. So we'll definitely, Michael, let us know how that goes, and we'll definitely come down.
Yeah, for sure.
all right then. All right, guys, here's the deal. So, yes, as we said, we will be back at exactly 1 a.m. on the dot. I will be pressing the live button. So, just keep refreshing the page, and it will come right back up with the next show. If you're listening to us on the Spreaker or S4 site, it'll do the same thing. So do not worry. We will be right back. Thank you so much for listening. And Eric, what do you say?
Don't forget, keep your eyes to the skies.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.